Hi everyone, it's William with the 1921 Grand Duke Dmitri Diary series. Forgive me, I've got a cold. I think I mentioned before that I was coming down with one. Well, now it's fully here and hopefully will subside relatively quickly. I was also just outside with the dogs, so that's why I still have my outside clothes on. And I'm hoping that I won't have to blow my nose or have a sneezing fit or that the dogs won't bark. But luckily, this is a short, very short entry in transit. So it shouldn't be too challenging. So the recap, we're up to the 8th of March, and on the 7th, the second part of the diary entry for the 7th of March, which we did in the last video, Dmitri was expressing some misgivings that he'd really had from the very beginning of the trip and that were probably even more on his mind as he was leaving and going back to Paris. Another interesting thing is that we found out that he had a guard on duty night and day from the so-called Iron Division, which was led by General, what was his first name? Well, let's just say General von der Goltz, who was very eager, or had been very eager, to claim territory on behalf of Germany in Eastern Europe, and wanted to or claimed that he had intended to march on Petrograd, and that was why he was going in unbidden into Estonia in 1919, and the Estonians turned him back, and then he went to back home to Germany and immediately got involved in the Kapp Putsch, but he was still at liberty in Weimar, Germany, even though he'd been part of that movement to overthrow the government. And I guess he must not have been a very prominent part of it. A lot of the people that were involved with it then went to Munich, and Munich really became the stronghold in Bavaria of the sort of nascent National Socialist movement. And Goltz, I don't think he went to Munich. I think he stayed in Berlin, but he still had this, well, I don't know if it still existed as a division, but he had these officers who had been a part of the Iron Division. He assigned them to protect Dmitri, and I don't know, if anybody requested that. Dmitri definitely didn't, or it was Goltz's own idea. But at any rate, Dmitri did not meet Goltz. If he did, he doesn't mention it in his diaries, and I'm quite sure he would have mentioned it in his diaries if he had. So, and I don't think Dmitri would have accepted the presence of these Iron Division officers if he had known that Goltz, who ostensibly was wanting to help the White Russians against the Bolsheviks, really wanted to establish German government control in Eastern Europe, in the various countries there. Anyway, finally, Dmitri would not allow anyone to come and see him off at the station. He was done. He was just done with all of this fanfare. Okay, so the cast today, we have people that we know, quite a few people that we know, a handful, I should say, not quite a few. And the only one that we haven't met yet is Alexander Putyatin, the younger brother of Maria's husband, Gulia. Okay, so we're at 8th March, 1921. It's a Tuesday, and this diary entry is written in Paris. So if this was a university course, I would probably have a quiz at this point, and the first question on the quiz would be, what was Dmitri's Paris address? Because we've heard it so many times, but just in case you don't recall that, it is 76 Rue Miromesnil, which you can go have a look at the exterior of if you're in Paris, or have a look at the Google Street View of that building. Okay, Here's Dmitri. At 8 o'clock in the morning, I arrived in Cologne. Galeevsky, of course, went with me at my expense, just as had been the case during his stay in Berlin. One had to change cars in Cologne because the sleeping cars weren't going any further. It was unbearably cold. I ran to buy some coffee at the station. It was 11:15 at night by the time we reached Paris. The French border control was disgusting. Rude people and a frightfully long wait. That was around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Shagubatov was at the station, in Paris, I believe. Sorry, that was me. Shagubatov was at the station. Galeevsky and I went to Maria's, where we were given food. Gulia's younger brother is living with Maria and Gulia. He seems very nice. I went home to sleep around 12:30. Shagubatov was waiting for me at the apartment, and that is all. So a nice short one. You know, what can you say when you spent the whole night and day on the train? But some things of interest. It's interesting to find out that Dmitri actually paid for Galeevsky's trip. I wasn't even sure that Dmitri had paid for Dmitri's trip. And I wonder if it was subsidized by someone, and then he himself had to pay out of pocket for Galeevsky. But anyway, he's a little bit complaining a little bit about that. Another thing that I think is interesting is this question of how does a Grand Duke live in exile? Well, not the way he lived before the revolution, because here he is running off the train to get his own coffee on this cold morning, and also having to put up with what most of us have to put up with whenever we go on a trip or when we go to the Department of Motor Vehicles or any bureaucratic agency: rudeness and long waits. Okay, so if you work for the DMV or at the airport, don't get angry. I'm not accusing you of being rude or inefficient. It's just that it happens. It happens to everybody. But, you know, I doubt that it happened to Grand Dukes, Russian Grand Dukes, before the revolution. I think they just could sort of, you know, cross borders with ease. There were people that took care of all that. They certainly didn't have to go and get their own coffee. And you see here that Galeevsky wasn't going to get the coffee. That was Dmitri, although maybe Dmitri was alone at that particular moment. Or maybe he just wanted to do it. Okay. But, you know, the thing that I like about Dmitri is that he doesn't complain in the sense of saying, you know, how dare they? Don't they know who I am? I mean, he complains, like all of us complain, about, you know, these people were rude, or it was cold and I had to go out and get coffee. But he doesn't complain in the sense of, well, I'm a Grand Duke. I shouldn't have to do these things. I shouldn't have to put up with these things. He just never does that, which is cool, I think. So Shagubatov. So Andrei, who's one of the viewers of these videos, told me that sent me the information that Shagubatov had been with Dmitri for about 20 years. So that would have been, you know, since Dmitri was since he was a kid. But anyway, Andrei was of the belief that Shagubatov was actually a valet, and I don't think so. I really don't, because Dmitri had his valet Pyotr Savonya, and he would do things like, you know, go to restaurants with Shagubatov. So I think that Shagubatov was an adjutant. I think he was a military adjutant, but I'm not sure about that. He could have just been a kind of, you know, personal secretary or personal assistant. He was not being paid by Dmitri like Savonya was. He was apparently doing this on a voluntary basis. There was another man named Dmitri Kasterin who was also some kind of personal assistant to Dmitri, whether military or not, before the revolution. and was also then in Paris, and Dmitri mentions him, but Shagubatov seems to have been the one who, was kind enough to volunteer to continue to play this role. And as always, I'm not sure where the stress goes, but thank you anyway, Andrei, for that. And if you have any more information about Shagubatov or anybody or anything that's mentioned in the videos, please do send that along. I assure you that it's always very much appreciated, and that goes for any of you. Okay, what do we have next? Prince Alexander Mikhailovich Putyatyn, brother of Prince Sergei Mikhailovich Putyatyn, who was the husband of Dmitri's sister, Grand Duchess Maria. Okay, so he was a young man of about 23 or 24. And Dmitri says he seems nice. Yeah, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that he was a nice young man. And I did not look him up anywhere. I was being lazy today, so I am just using the small note sent by my Russian colleagues, and they identify him as an icon writer. So I don't know if he was at this point in 1921 or if he would become one, but there's sort of this odd tradition, when it comes to icons, that you don't call people who create or produce icons icon painters, you call them icon writers. I don't know why. It's kind of counterintuitive because you can't picture a person sitting down with a pen. But I guess maybe it's because an icon is considered a sacred text. That could be it, if I heard that somewhere. Anyway, you can see the icon of Saint Demetrius up behind me, and the original must be beautiful, but that's just a reproduction. Anyway, that's cool that's what Alexander Putyatyn ended up doing. And of course, Dmitri goes immediately to Maria's when he arrives late at night, and Sis provides him with some food. She feeds him in Golaevsky, and apparently he didn't keep a cook. He had his Savonya. Shagubatov goes immediately back to Dmitri's apartment, but doesn't cook for him. So they stop at Sis's place to have some food, and then goes home. And there's Shagubatov at the apartment. Well, that kind of sounds like a valet, doesn't it? But, who knows? Maybe Dmitri had given him the key to the apartment and asked him to stay there or keep an eye on the place while he was gone. Because he was gone for quite a long time, considering, that the journey began in Copenhagen and then went on to Berlin. But I don't know. Anyway, so next time. Incidentally, Shagubatov did not live with Dmitri, as Savonya did. Shagubatov had an address in Paris, and I'll try to remember to put that on the Facebook group so that you can have a look at that on Google Street View. So he had his own place. Anyway, so next time will be very interesting, very interesting. It's the calm before the storm really breaks next time. And some of the people that we'll be seeing are Maria, of course. Dmitri will be right back over at his sister's place. But he also is going to visit his stepmother, whom he calls a Mamachka. Okay, so Mamachka was Princess Palais, Olga Palais. And Mamachka, yesterday I said that Ducky, who was Kirill's wife, Grand Duchess Victoria Fyodorovna, had put out the word that she wanted to see Dmitri. Well, I was wrong about that. I should have been more careful, because I did look ahead at these entries. Actually, there was some kind of trouble going on with Mamachka and Ducky, and so Mamachka was saying to Dmitri, I don't know how to handle this. I think I haven't read through that entire diary entry anymore, but whatever the situation is, I promise you it's going to be interesting. So definitely come back for that. And it's, it's weird to talk about, being threatened by somebody named Ducky, but there you go. So hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye.